Hello everyone. Welcome to Cooking with Chef Carole. Today we are going to do make and take dishes. So, welcome again. My name is Wendy Sachs. I'm a member of the board of Plant Powered Metro New York. We host a monthly series with Carole, and this is our month of May presentation. Plant Powered Metro New York empowers people to find better health and overcome chronic disease with a whole food, plant-based approach to nutrition. Together with a wide network of grassroots leaders, organizers, and educators, we raise awareness about the dramatic health benefits of whole food, plant-based food. With the food as medicine approach, we offer education, build supportive communities, and empower people to make lifestyle adjustments and organize and lead projects that spark changes to food policy, food practice, and we hope food culture. So today I have actually 3 quick announcements at the top of the hour, and we will repeat this at the end of the show. It's spring. And Plant Powered Metro New York has planned a number of really exciting and engaging activities. One coming up on May 14th is a group trip to Ethos Farm, which is Ron Weiss's regenerative farm in Long Valley, New Jersey. And we'll put the link in the chat. We also have, so that's May 14th. For people coming from New York City, we are also arranging busing options. Otherwise, whoever wants to drive can drive and meet us there. We have a 21-day jumpstart coming up, and we're asking people to please register no later than May 8th. This is a phenomenal program. It's our signature program. We offer it a few times to the public during the year, and highly recommend joining us for this, particularly if you're interested in recovering or reversing or improving from a chronic disease, and also if you're just generally interested in making the transition from standard American diet into whole food plant-based eating. And then we have a women's health event coming up on May 25th. It's a free live stream event, and again, highly recommend you join us for those. Again, we'll put the announcements and the links to that at the very end. So those who are here live, please let us know where you're from in the chat. Also, please ask questions in the chat. Carole usually allows time during her demo, and if not, we'll try to save a few minutes at the end for questions and answers. And if you're enjoying the presentation, please like us on Facebook, on YouTube. And to those listening to the replays, welcome. So I know I've got a sneak peek of the menu today, and I'm gonna mention a very fun fact about mint. I know Carole's using it in one of the recipes. It's got amazing health benefits, which include improved digestion, weight loss, relief from nausea, depression, fatigue, and headaches. It might also be helpful in the treatment of asthma, memory loss, and skin problems. So we're putting in a link. Actually, there's one peculiar property of mint that seems a little contrary, which is that it generally cools the system down and has soothing effects. But if you have a fever, it actually induces sweating, which can be helpful in breaking the fever. So it's a powerful little herb, and Carole's using it in the food today. So Carole, what's on the menu?
We make for May and springtime, right? What should we make? And I thought, before it gets too hot everywhere, right? And you don't want to stand in your kitchen and turn the oven on. Let's try to do some baking, right? So today we're going to do 2 things. We're going to do 2 different kinds of Indian pies, actually. One is looking like an empanada with a very simple filling wrapped in a dough. And we're going to make those, and then we're making a more complicated filling, but in a very simple rice paper wrap, which is kind of a substitute for a deep fried samosa. So we're making 2 different kinds of Indian pies, basically, and then we're making a mint yummy mint chutney, which will go for both of them and which is delicious. So you must stay till the very end to watch the mint chutney as well. So I'm going to move on because we've got a lot to do when we're assembling two different kinds of pies with two different fillings. So I have measured out, we are going to start with the Indian curry pies, and I've measured out 1 cup of spelt flour. Okay, and I know you're going to ask, if you're gluten-free, can I use something else? You could try to use the oat flour. I think it would work. If you don't want to use oat flour because that too is troublesome to you, then maybe try chickpea flour. Maybe just go for the whole Indian way, you know. So that's my thinking on that out loud. But I haven't tried it, but I just know people are always wondering about that substitution. So the next thing that I'm doing is I put the 1 cup of flour in here, right? And then we need to take, I'm going to take a little pinch from here. We need to take a little pinch of cayenne. This dough, I'm not putting any salt in. So it has to have a little bit of a kick, a little bit of a flavor. So I'm actually putting in a little bit of cayenne. And then most dough needs some kind of fat, right? And if we're not using butter, we're going to be using a raw cashew butter. And you could substitute another kind of nut butter, but I find that the cashew butter, what is really nice about the cashew butter is that it's light in color and it's much different and tastes richer and also is lighter and richer than if you were to use, per se, almond butter or peanut butter or a sunflower butter. Now, another good idea that's light in color is maybe tahini. Tahini would probably work. I buy this brand called Artisana, and it's a raw cashew butter. It's expensive, I will not lie to you, but I only use it for pastries. So it's a kind of thing that I think is very special. So I'm going to immediately get a fork, and I'm just going to start to blend just like you would any kind of pastry. You're going to kind of get the butter, the peanut butter, the cashew butter. I call it peanut butter, but it's butter, it's cashew butter. And it's already kind of ground in. You could also get in there with your fingers, and you just want to get in there and get it all blended. And then I'm going to, and we put in our pinch of cayenne. That's replacing our salt, right? And then we're going to have 1/3 cup of water. Now, it really depends. You might need a little more water than 1/3 cup, but the first thing is I get 1/3 cup in, okay? It's better for you to have less water and add a little more water. If your dough is a little moist, right, it's better to have it to be a little dry than to add too much water. Okay, so I see that this is really coming together really nicely. And again, you might need, depending on the climate where I live, it's very, very dry. And I find that often when I'm cooking anything, rice or quinoa or making bread, sometimes I need just a little more water. So that's something that you have to learn to figure out. And also, we all measure differently. This particular recipe is not weighed, it's all measured, so you might have a heavier hand when you are measuring, right, your ingredients, when you're measuring your flour. Everybody measures a little bit differently. So I'm just going to quickly rinse my pans, because the minute that I go into the bowl, and I'm going to get a piece of, this is the one time that I actually use the saran wrap that is in my drawer. I try to limit my plastics as much as possible. But this is what I do with the dough. And ultimately, I gather it. So you don't want to give it a lot of touching. Okay, this is your dough, perfectly ready. And ultimately, you want your dough to sit at least a half an hour. Okay, and that's just going to go in the refrigerator. It's perfect, ready to go. And if you wanted to speed it up, you could throw it into the freezer. I'm going to get a glass of water because I feel like I'm having a dry throat. And I'm going to exchange this particular one, and I'm going to, this particular one for the one that's in the fridge. So let's just do that. And here is the one, I kind of rolled it so that it would be flat, so it's ready for us, okay? So half an hour into the fridge. Now, could you use it right away? Of course you can use it right away, but it's really not recommended. It's nice to let the dough rest. So we're gonna move on to our filling, which is super simple compared to the next filling that we're making. So this particular filling has onions, it has a sweet potato, it has 1 cup of frozen peas, and then it has curry powder, chili powder, and cumin seeds. So what I did first earlier on was it said to toast the cumin seeds. So I toasted them, and I immediately, after they were done, I put them into this mortar and pestle and tried to grind them as much as possible. Now, if you have never had fresh cumin seeds, I say run and get them and toast them up, and you will be so surprised how amazing. Cumin is a great spice anyway, but the whole spice, there's nothing that replicates it, and the smell of it is just beyond. So I have my burner on, and ideally what we're going to do is we're going to see if this is hot, which I actually think it is. Yes, the pan is sizzling, and it says that we need to saute our onions. And you know that we're not using any oil, so usually I saute in water, or if I have some broth. I don't have any broth today, so we're just going to quickly get those onions. This is like 1 medium onion, all diced, okay? And we're just going to get that cooking in there. And then what else is going to happen is we are going to saute the onion, and then we're going to, we need a potato, right? So to save a little bit of time, just a little bit of time, I took a sweet potato and I small diced it about 1/4 inch. Now, you normally would cut that potato and you would cook the potatoes with the spices and the onions, which take maybe 10 minutes, 15 minutes, because they're really tiny. The potatoes are just maybe 1/4 to 1/2 inch large, right? They're not very big. You want to have them small. But what I did was to save a little bit of time so that we weren't cooking for a long time, using our time to be waiting for the filling to be done. I actually just steamed my sweet potatoes in a basket. Here's the water. That's quickly just going to go in there. We'll remove this pan for now. So I kind of did, I cut off a little bit of time that we'll need to actually cook the filling. So I'm going to just get myself a spoon here, and we're going to make sure those onions are not sticking. They are not sticking yet, but I can see that they want to stick. So when they want to stick, I'm going to add just a teeny bit more water, right? And we really want to get those onions cooked, because once you fill it, the only thing that's actually really cooking is the dough. And it's not in the oven for a terribly long time, so the filling needs to be actually cooked. So I probably have I had 2 very small potatoes, so I probably have more potato filling than needed here. Now, when cooking with Indian food, I like putting the spices. Now, normally Indian food would have ghee, which is a clarified butter. But again, we have no oil, we have no butter. So I like getting the spices into the onions right away to get started cooking. So what I've just added is I've added the chili powder and the 2 teaspoons of curry. And then, of course, I have the ground cumin seeds, right? So that is going to, my mortar and pestle is going to go away. And I'm just going to mix this so you can see what this is like, so that the onions are totally coated. And those spices are basically toasting as the onions are sauteing and cooking. Now that looks already delicious and smells out of this world, like just perfectly delicious. And I'm trying to just move everything because when we assemble things, we're going to need the room. I'm going to put the potatoes in. Again, I think I have a little more potatoes than needed. But you're going to see after we make both of these fillings that if you don't want to ever put them inside dough or wrap them with rice paper, then you have an amazing little dish that you could just eat on the side, you know, as a meal. So you don't have to necessarily put it in a filling, right? So keep that in mind about the filling. If you have leftover, you're basically making two different meals here. Okay, so we know that these potatoes are cooked, and then it says that we need to have how much? 1 cup of peas. Well, I actually always buy these frozen peas. They're organic peas, and they're often on sale, and I find that they're like $2, and they're so inexpensive that I buy a bunch of them and just keep them in the freezer. And we need to have a whole cup of these peas, and the other dish that we're making also has peas. So this says in my recipe 1 cup, if not more. So let's just fill 1 cup up. And again, these are frozen, and we're just gonna set those carefully over there for now. And we're gonna get these in here, right? And I can listen to this and hear a little bit of sticking. So I'm gonna put a little bit of water, just a tad, not very much, because we're not looking for liquid in here, and I just don't want things to stick, okay? And this filling is done now, right? It takes 5 minutes to make this. And remember I said we're doing a simple one and a more complicated one, right? And I'm putting the water in the bottom, and I'm just making sure that none of those spices are like adhering to the bottom of the pan, which they are not, okay? And of course, before you want to do any kind of filling, you're gonna wanna taste what you've made, right? Because it could need something, you don't know, we don't know. So if you wanted to make it spicier, you could add anything you want to this at this point. But this is a simple recipe, just peas and sweet potatoes, onions, and spices. So, that is delicious, and it's a little bit spicy because I think I have fresh chili powder, and I can really taste that. It's very delicious, and maybe it's a tiny bit stronger than I would want it to be, but it's okay because it's going inside the dough, right? And we're only going to add a little bit of it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to get a big bowl. And I'm going to get it out of the pan so that it can start cooling immediately. Okay, that's our goal here. And look at all that filling. Okay, so it makes total sense, again, if you don't want to be the person making any kind of dough, or you only want to make a few pies and then have leftover, well, that's fine too. So, Wendy, now is a good time just to say hello to everyone and ask if there's any questions in the chat just about our filling or our dough.
You know, right at the moment, we're in good shape. There's no questions. However, I'm delighted that there's so many people from across the country. Illinois, Arkansas, of course, New Jersey feels like a neighbor. Number of people from our whole plant-based world.
That's impressive.
Welcome, everyone. I
have to say that's impressive to know that, right? Considering we used to be so New York centric, and that was one of the silver linings of the pandemic, right? Was bringing us the world comes to us now. We go out and it comes to us. It's like amazing. Okay, so here's our dough, right? This is the dough I made early this morning. It's not the one that I just made 15 minutes ago. And we're using these cutters. And remarkably, I just found a link for these cutters in case anybody's interested. I'll kind of show you what they look like. This is a 3.5 inch. This is probably 2.5 inches. I have had these cutters, I have to tell you, for maybe 30 years, maybe more, because one of my first pastry jobs, I had to make 1 million empanadas. And so what's super great about this is it's a cutter, and then it's also a crimper, right? So I have given Wendy the link and she will make that available. But let's just quickly assemble these. Even though this filling probably needs to cool a little bit, I want to just get things in the oven, okay? Because we have a lot to do today. So we're getting this dough out, and of course, the minute that we get the dough out, we have to get the flour onto the counter. And usually when I'm rolling, if I've made a spelt dough, I actually use spelt flour on the counter. You could use any kind of flour you want. I try not to over flour, right? And we are going to make a bunch of circles. So if it's any kind of production, you want to do it all at one time. Henry Ford was, right, the one who taught us about production, and he was right. So if you're gonna make all your circles at once, you're gonna do all your filling, and then you're gonna put everything together, okay? So that's what I'm recommending, okay? Now we're only gonna make a few. We're not making dozens and dozens, but I'm just showing you right now that we are rolling this dough out, and the minute that it starts to, it's very cold, which is really good. The dough actually feels good. And you want to roll it about a 1/8 inch thickness, okay? You don't want to get it too thin because we never want the filling to pop through, right? And we don't want too much flour, right? We don't want too much flour at all because we don't want it to, we don't want to be eating too much flour. So it's always good to have a dusting and a possible hole right there. So I'm just going to roll this out. So you can make any size you want. I'm going to take the bigger size and I'm just going to turn, right? And you want to get as many circles out of the first roll as possible, because the more you gather the dough the next time, it's going to be stiffer. You only probably want to roll it so that it's used 2 times, right? So here is this particular one has running edges. Here's our filling, right? And I'll just show you, because we can probably only get 2 more circles maybe. So maybe you want to double. Now that I see how much filling I made, it's good that I made 2 discs. I made this disc and then I made another one, right? But again, you don't want to roll this dough too many times because the gluten starts to form and it gets really tough, and it won't be as lovely as these earlier ones, right? So we'll make like 5, and later on I'll just finish the filling with the other disc that's in. And then we're going to I don't think we're going to get another single one out. Let's see. Sometimes I push my luck here. And I actually I'm going to show you just for a second here. It's not probably the best way to do this, but it's just a way I want to get 6 out of here, and we're going to make it work. Okay, so here is, and my knife is at the edge of the counter. So now we have 6, okay? And what my grandmother used to do with this leftover dough that was so special when I was a kid, and she would make pie and she would have leftover dough, is she knew too this dough was not meant to roll over and over again. She would roll it out and then she'd spread a layer of peanut butter, or she'd put raisins and nuts, and she'd roll it up into a little snail, and kind of like a arugula. It was like her own little arugula for me, so that she would bake that when the pie was baking. And that was my little treat in the oven when I was a kid. So I always think about her when I have this kind of leftover dough, and I'm just going to set that dough there. So as you can see, we have our filling, right? And we are going to take our spoon here, and I'm not sure if it's clean, so I'm giving it a quick wash, and get a towel. Oh, I have a towel right here. When you have the towel right here, you don't need to look for another towel. Okay, and our filling is still a little warm, but ideally imagine that it's cold. Okay, that's ultimately. Now you can put the filling all on the different individual ones. I personally like holding it in my hand because that way I don't overfill. Okay, it's really easy to be having your eyes and say, oh, it needs to be really full. You need to, the key is to fill it just enough so that it's not going to burst open, and also to be able to close it. So the reason I like it in my hand is it allows me to seal this shut. Now, what this dough, when I used to make dough with butter, you always had to kind of have to seal it with a little water. Sometimes I take a flax egg and I seal it, but you can see that this dough is actually quite malleable and soft, and I didn't even, and I made a hole already in there, and we're just gonna leave that kind of flat. And but what is ideal is if you take a little bit of water, you have it here, and then you put your finger just around one edge, and then it's wet, and then you seal it. That's ultimately guarantees so that you don't have any openings, right? And at this point, you're going to crimp it, but let's get all of them made. And I like doing the water now, so I don't forget the water, putting it in my hand like this, right? Too much filling. And again, you have to kind of get used to how much, and you want the filling to be in the corners and in the center. And you might make, if you're making this for the very first time, it might be too full, and you'll have to learn that. I will tell you, there's no trick but experience, right? To learn those things. And then you take a little water, we put it on the edge here, and then we carefully fold it. And we seal everything, and there goes a pea, there goes two peas, there goes a potato. You see, things want to escape, and you don't want them, and you want that filling out of the way of the seam, okay? So we're gonna finish, we're just gonna do these ones very quickly, okay? And Wendy, is there any questions about assembling thus far?
No questions, but one
okay, good. I'm just making sure that everyone, I'm doing enough of them so everyone can kind of see the technique. I try to flatten them so that, because they are going to lay flat, right? And we're going to get the last one. And you can really tell the one that I rolled twice, that I rolled again. It's really, it doesn't feel as malleable, as nice as the other ones. Okay, here's the filling, right? We put a little water on the edge. We're like sealing it up. I go right to the middle, then to the ends, and get all of that, hoping that there's no filling where that seam is, right? Think about hemming your pants, right? You don't want anything in that seam to get in the way, right? So at this point, the beauty of this tool is that it has a crimper already in it. So what you would do is you would take it and you would just go along the side and you would press down, right? And sometimes a little dough comes off. And if you've missed the side, you actually end up with a really beautiful edge. Can you see that edge? I don't know if you can, because it's a small teeny detail, but I'm just going to show you. I'm going to get a little sheet pan close by. And how close by? Like right here. Okay, we're just going to set that there. Now, if you didn't have the beauty, then that's the beauty of, oops, that one wanted to open. And this is the beauty of the crimping of this tool. And again, sometimes it's not a perfectly half shape, so you have to go back and crimp again. And you see this one, the potato is coming out. So we just are going to put it back in. We're going to say, get back into your little pocket. And we're going to, and the reason is, see here, this is flat, right? And we're going to get this and do that. Okay. Now, in the past, I used to make these very shiny with egg wash, but there is no egg wash. So what is my replacement for an egg wash? My replacement is aquafaba, which is, if you're using, in our next recipe, we're actually using chickpeas. And normally, often people will open those from the, this one is already broken because I rolled it really thin there. So you have to be careful. If you see it's broken, just try to give it a little patching together. It's not going to be a terrible crisis, but it can happen. What I was saying about the aquafaba is that it works. You can take your chickpeas and get your juice from it and use that. Today, I actually cooked my own chickpeas. Again, we have all this leftover dough. We're almost done here, right? So this amount of dough, you can see that I have a lot of filling. So probably I make a few empanadas and then I eat the rest of the filling on its own. But if you want to use up all the filling, then you probably need to do the dough recipe 2 or 3 times, like double it, double or even triple it. I think that I like making just a few, and then I save the filling, and then maybe the next day I make new dough. Okay, so these are our little pies right here, right? Everyone can see how beautiful that came together. And then I'm going to get a little brush and a small one. And I have my chickpeas here that I cooked, and the liquid in there, that's the aquafaba. Remember I told you that I'm not using canned chickpeas, right? I'm just using my homemade chickpeas that I soaked overnight. And I'm just using that liquid to give these a little brushing, which will help make it a little bit shiny. And sometimes I take a little bit, I'm going to go to the cabinet because I just thought of this. And I remember that I do this once in a while. I don't do it always. But I take a little bit of chili, like a chili powder, kind of, this particular thing is a chili dipping powder that Rancho Gordo makes called rice. And I give it just a tiny little bit of dusting, just so there's this little bit of spice on the top, right? Just little red dots. Not necessary. I didn't write it in the instructions, but I remember it's something that I like doing. So that's what those look like. And they're going to go into an oven that is set at 375.
Carole, that looks absolutely beautiful. And what I was going to communicate earlier, and I will now, is you're getting a ton of compliments in the chat. Among them, which I think is one of the best, is that it looks like it's doable. So
well, that's what is the point, right? I'm so happy that you say that, Wendy. It makes me, because there are times that I'm planning the menus for our demos that we set up, and I think, maybe that's going to be too hard for people, or, oh, it's too complicated. It has 12 ingredients. But my role, I feel, is to show you that it's possible, right?
A lot of compliments that it's all looking professional. Honestly, your food is always presented as if you were in a top grade restaurant. So I'm glad people feel they can make this at home too.
Okay, so we have to quickly move on to I'm so glad, that makes me happy to move on to the next thing, Wendy, because it just makes me happy, because I always wonder, is this too hard? That's why I picked a filling that was super simple, and then one that's a little more complicated. And then I tell you, for the 100th time, you don't have to make the crust. You could just eat the sweet potatoes and the peas and the onions, and here's dinner, right? With some greens, right? So this is perfect. I'm just going to leave this sitting here because it's so beautiful, and I don't want it to go away. Now, the next thing we're making, and I'm just going to rinse this pan. Why? I was going to dirty another pan, but why do that when this one is so close by? So I'm going to rinse this really quickly, and I make sure that the little burner is on. And we're going to move on to the next thing. Now, it would help me if I look at those particular ones in the oven need about 20 to 25 minutes. So I'm going to look at the clock and make sure, and we'll just check them. I'm not even going to set a timer. We'll just remember them. I live in a high altitude area, so I'm still learning about the shortness of cutting. Sometimes things need more water here. Sometimes they take longer to cook. Sometimes they bake faster. I'm still trying to figure things out here with the altitude at 7,000 feet. They make all sorts of cookbooks, how to cook at 7,000 feet, but I've just been figuring it out lately on my own, because it doesn't seem like there's a science to it. but there probably is. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to make, not our mint curry, we're saving that to the end. We're going to move on to this recipe that I found on the internet. And I was so amused by it that I had to make it. In fact, Wendy, we made it once in your house, and it was so much fun. And I love it so because I love a samosa, but I don't love it because it's deep fried. So this is a samosa with similar ingredients. It does not have potatoes like normal samosas, but it tastes so delicious, and it's actually wrapped in a rice paper and then formed into triangles that look like a samosa. So it's not my recipe. It was made by a website called My New Roots, and I did alter it some because it had oil, it had salt, it had things in it not necessarily that I wanted to use. So I've just changed it up ever so slightly, and we're gonna start that. Okay, so those ingredients, I told you this one is a little more complicated. And let's get the cutting board back because we need that just to have. So we need the same saute pan. Now we have an onion, 1 medium onion, small diced, and then we need 2 cloves of garlic and 1 teaspoon of ginger. Now we're using fresh ginger. Okay, just want to point that out to you. And I peeled it. I peeled it with a spoon, a peeler, or you can go in there and peel it with a knife. And then I chopped it up, but you can grate it. But the fresh ginger is essential. Now, what we're going to use that is something that you might not have, but I'm going to tell you, just like running out to go get cumin seeds, if you're ever going to make these recipes or any Indian food in general, it is a must to have black mustard seeds, okay? And black mustard seeds look like chia seeds. They're tiny, tiny. You can't even see them in my hand, okay? But we have right now, the very first thing we're going to do is we're going to take 1 tablespoon of cumin seeds, which we used in our last dish, and we're also going to take a 1/2 tablespoon of black mustard seeds. And black mustard seeds are different than yellow mustard seeds. The yellow ones are mustardy tasting, and they come from 2 different plants, okay? Both black and yellow mustard seeds come from 2 different plants. And the yellow ones are usually made with that kind of mustard that you're used to seeing in the ballpark, right? The kind of yellowy mustard, right? Or Dijon mustard. These are black. They're much more flavorful, and they have a little hotness to them. So Indian food or Asian food requires black mustard seeds. So I'm putting those into a pan, and usually what you want to do when you're cooking with the black mustard seeds is you put them into the pan, normally with some oil, actually. They usually sizzle, but there is no sizzling happen here. They're going to cook, and they're going to start to become light gray, and they're going to pop like popcorn. And that's how I know that they're ready. So we're toasting. This pan is already hot. I already see. You don't want to ever walk away from this because it just could burn really easily. So that's the first thing we want to do is wait for the mustard seeds to begin popping. Now I've chopped up an onion. I've chopped up 2 cloves of garlic, and I probably have a little more than a teaspoon of ginger, actually, ginger. I know that I have a little more. I probably have a teaspoon and a half, and it's okay. It's what I chopped, and I'm not going to, doesn't have to be exact. We are not baking at the moment, so if you have chopped a little bit more, I say the more ginger, the better. Now I already hear them popping. I wish that you all could hear the same thing, but I hear them. They're turning light gray. They're a totally different color than when I put them in. And I'm going to put the onions, the garlic, and the ginger all in there. And I'm going to quickly give it a stir. And what am I going to give it a stir with? I have to get a nice tool to give it a stir. Let's use this spatula, actually. And I'm just going to give it and I'm going to coat the onions with all that ginger. Now remember, we have no oil in this pan, so we have to get a little bit of water in there just to get things, not a lot, I just put a teeny bit, and it's only so things don't stick. And I'm using a ceramic pan, so that also is helpful to us. And I'm putting the water a little bit all over the place. And oh my gosh, if I could tell you, not only does this look beautiful, onions, garlic, ginger, sesame, cumin seed, and black mustard seed. Now I know someone is asking in the chat. I am going to be say, I don't have black mustard seeds. What do I do? Well, if you have yellow ones, you could use them, but it's not going to be the same flavor. So I really say to go get them. And somebody also might say when they're buying them for the first time, hey, these are a little bit expensive. Well, they're expensive, much like saffron. Remember we talked about saffron once, and it is hand-picked. And black mustard seeds also have to be hand-picked, unlike the kind that are yellow, which are machine processed. So I've never seen either plant, so I don't know, but it is something that I've read. So when you're wondering about why it's a little more expensive, the black ones, now you know anything that has to be hand-picked is going to be a little more expensive. The next ingredients that go into this, there's lots of spices, and it has a nice two other special things in it. It has roasted or toasted, either one, cashews, and I cut back the quantity from the original recipe, had a half a cup, and I took it down to a quarter. I thought it was plenty of crunch and flavor and fat. And then we have a quarter cup of unsweetened coconut, okay? And this is not the flakes, but the really thin coconut, right? That is shredded. They call it shredded coconut, but not with any sugar, okay? And then our spices, we have turmeric here, we have coriander, cardamom, cinnamon, and cayenne. So those are our spices. So I'm going to immediately get in those spices, just like we did the last time. I toasted the cashew seeds so that they would be really good and the flavor would be there. And the coconut is going to go in. I'm going to not put in all the coconut. I like saving a little coconut for the top. And I see that I put some, and we've got a bunch of carrots that we small diced. Okay, how many carrots? 3 medium carrots. Well, medium carrots, it's hard to know how medium, what is a medium carrot? So I just chopped a bunch. You want to make it super small, like 1/4 inch. That is your goal of like 2 inches, 1/4 inch, kind of like the size of the peas. And I buy these cashews that are less expensive because they're already chopped. They're already, they call them the pieces. And I know for a fact Trader Joe's sells pieces, but these are real like crumbs practically. So those are going to go into the pot as well. And then of course we have our chickpeas. We cannot forget about our chickpeas. Now that makes me think about the oven all of a sudden. So let's just look what's going on in here. Oh, they're cooking away. And they smell really good. They smell delicious. Yummy, yummy. So we need a cup of chickpeas, and I'm not sure how many I actually have here. I soaked 2/3 of a cup of chickpeas that were dry, okay? And the dried ones, usually they pop up, you know? So if you're needing a cup, you probably only need a half a cup. But I cook always, you know, chickpea is going to be my alias name one day, chickpea caper. And I eat so many of those chickpeas when they're cooking that I just throw in a bunch into the pot. But I think I had about 2/3 of a cup. And here I have a few left over. They could go in there, but I'll save them for another salad for some other time, right? You can never have enough chickpeas as far as I'm concerned. So this is now cooking, right? We have our carrots, our chickpeas, all the spices are in there. The only thing that we're missing is our peas, our green peas. Remember I said this recipe was also going to have peas, so we need 1 cup of peas for this one as well, right? I think that's going to be my full 10-ounce bag. I see that I have a very few. There's a very few, so those are going in there for sure, right? And those are, all the peas are going in. So that bag, so I used 1 bag of frozen 10-ounce peas for 2 recipes, and this costs like $2. So very efficient and good. But if you can get fresh peas when they're in season, which should be soon, you know, it could be now actually. It depends on where you live. We don't, where I live, we're not planting, you know, we're all at seedlings still. But in New York, it could be time for those fresh peas. Okay, so this is more beautiful than you could ever imagine, right? This is like mouth-watering, just hands down delicious. And I'm going to start to move some of these extra things. I always save, you see that I have the skins. I save these ginger skins to make a cup of tea with lemon. So let's just get that out of the way. And the last thing, and we're going to move this other filling, we have to get the spinach in there. And it says 2 cups of spinach, and I'm just going to make sure we haven't forgotten anything. I'm going to read, and it says that we can put the spinach in right now. It's pretty much take it off the stove and put the spinach. The spinach does not need very much cooking. Okay, so it says 2 cups. So I'm just going to grab, this is probably 1 cup. You can see that I don't really care if it's 2 cups. And I'm just going to chop it a little bit because there's nothing more aggravating than when you're making a little pie that you pull out a big stringy piece of spinach, and you also want to get rid of these stems, right? So that's probably my 1 cup right there. I'm sure I'm doing a little more than normal, but that's okay. And here's another. This spinach was washed 3 times to get all the sand out. And if you think that you're going to just wash it 1 time, you must wash it 3 times. Unless you're buying the bagged spinach or the spinach that's already in a container. This actually is spinach that is grown locally here, I'm sure indoors during the winter, but it's local and it was sandy. So I really gave it a good thorough washing. Okay, so we are officially done with, I'm just going to move all of these things away. And we are done with our filling. And we can actually turn this burner off. And I'm going to try to scoot everything. And we are going to, I think what we're going to do is we're going to take we're going to just make everything out of this pan. So the goal here now is to get this spinach so that it's starting to wilt, right? We're mixing it in with all the hot ingredients. And we're going to ultimately fill the little pies, the little rice papers. Now, I will admit to you that I made dozens of these last week. Not even dozens. I would say maybe 20 pies, little triangles. But then I had maybe a cup or 2 left of filling. So for breakfast, these last few mornings, I've been actually cooking a white potato and then serving this on top and the mint chutney. So this is a meal unto itself, and you don't have to go to the next step. But remember, my goal here is to show you meals that you could take on the run, to kind of like to go with you. If you're going to a picnic, or you're just getting on a plane and you're crossing. I know when Wendy used to go out of town before the pandemic and I knew she was flying somewhere, I'd be like, okay, what are you taking on the plane? You need something that you can eat. And I would quickly want to make her some kind of pocket thing. It could be a Vietnamese roll. It could be, there's so many different kinds of pocket foods. But these are 2 good ones to kind of take with you, if you'd like, somewhere. Or you could just eat them at the plate, or you could just eat them, right?
I'll pipe in, Carol, and just tell you, not only were they utterly and completely delicious, but I have used to being in the neighborhood for the last the last year, because yeah, your cooking is delicious, absolutely delicious. So
well, don't you remember when I used to love when you were going away, and I'm not love that you're going away, but I'd be like, what's going to be for the plane? You know, I was always interested. What are you going to eat on the plane? So
I was never hungry.
But it's always something that fascinates me. One day I'm going to do a little demo of just things we can take with us. So these are 2 things that we could take. So of course we have to taste everything. We're going just like this, as I talk with my mouth full, which is something you're not supposed to do. But it's just delicious. It's just out of this world delicious. So you could say, I'm done. I don't want to do any more. This is dinner. This is lunch. This is breakfast. Make a baked potato, make a sweet potato, and you've got an amazing meal full of protein, full of greens and vegetables and spices, and it just explodes in your mouth, okay? Just from the spices. We didn't use any salt. We didn't use any oil. Okay, so now comes the fun part. And what I'm trying to do right now in aid of our fun part is to really just get the area so that we have as much area as possible. And we certainly don't need, okay, so we are clear here. We're going to look at the empanadas or the pies. I call them empanadas because I used to make a lot of empanadas when I was at a restaurant. And I love, see, they're starting to leak and they're pretty much almost done. I would say maybe less than 5 minutes, but these are them. We're gonna let those cook for a very few seconds, and we'll at least get our special little things ready. So let's get a bowl. We're getting a bowl, and we're gonna put hot water in it. Not boiling water, but hot water. And we're gonna fill this bowl. Now the water's coming out cold for the moment. I don't know why, but now it's warm. The warm water, you don't want boiling water and you don't want cold water. You want warm water to the touch. This bowl is for our rice paper. Now some people actually use a pie pan, like a glass Pyrex pie pan. But for some reason I find the bowl to work because it's higher, and as you're taking things out and water's dripping and going all over the place, I just find the bowl works better. You'll find that many times when you're watching or learning how to deal with rice paper, they say, dip it in the Pyrex bowl. Well, I just don't see that that necessarily works all the time. So I'm getting out my bag. I carry in a Ziploc bag. I have all these different rice papers. I have little ones that are just 6-inch diameter. And then I have these other ones that are, how big are they? Technically, it doesn't even say. Well, I know that they're like 8 inches. I'm not sure why they don't say, but they're large, okay? They're this big, okay? Can everyone see? And they have a little waffling edges, right? So we're going to take these out. Now, what's interesting, I'm going to take a bunch of them out. So we're just going to, I'm going to take as many out as possible that I think I have time to make with you. Now, the recipe says take one of these and soak it in water and then cut it in half and then start to form it. Now, and I wrote that up just like it said, 8 round rice paper wrappers, or you could use 16 wrappers. Now, why is 16 better than 8? It's because I've learned that the filling is quite heavy. So if you were just to use half, I find that it works, but I prefer it to be a little sturdier. So here is what I do. This is where I kind of go off and figure it out myself. So you put the rice paper in the water, right? And if you were to just use half, you would put this on your table and you would cut it in half. Instead, I just make it easier and I literally fold it in half, okay? I fold it in half, but I don't usually do it in the air like that. I fold it in half, and this one I soaked a bunch so that I have basically a half moon, right? So I'm trying to think how I can show you this so that you're seeing properly. Okay, so I have the long side facing me and the round side here. And we are going to get a little measuring cup. I'm going to get a quarter cup. And we're going to take a quarter cup of filling. And you're going to make sure that it's stirred. And you're getting carrots and spinach. Okay, and then you're going to put this filling. And just like the empanada, you want to make sure that the filling is everywhere, but not everywhere in the sense that it's in the wrong places. So you want to leave about a ½ inch on the round side. And what you're going to do is you're going to take this half side and you're going to meet and you're going to make a triangle. And so that now the edges line up, right? And you still have this edge. And then you're going to take another edge and you're going to fold it into a pocket. And then so that the filling, even though the edges, the round edge now is all sealed, it's actually reassurance to actually put it, fold it in half. And then you flip it over and then you kind of make sure. Now, what is not good is right here. I see it's a little doughy and there's no filling there. So we'll be more careful the next time to make sure that we have filling in every corner. Okay, so Wendy, is this, I know that it's kind of far away, but I just want to make sure, is it easy to see the folding?
Yes, I mean, yes, you can see you dipping it, and yes, you can see your...
I just want to make sure that it's possible. So I folded it like this, right? We have our little half moon, right? And I'm going to put the long edge actually by my stomach, right? The long edge. And then I'm going to take the filling and I'm going to put it in. And again, you have to leave an edge, but you want it to be really full and you want it to be in all the corners. And you're going to take one corner and you're going to fold it over in such a way that you're making a triangle and you're folding it, and immediately as soon as the one edge touches, then, and I can see, you can still at this point, if you have a little spoon, I'm going to get a little teaspoon, you can see that in the corner where that is missing some filling. Well, just pack it in there, right? Just pack it in. So I'm just going to put a little more filling carefully. And then you're going to take this opposite edge and go to the opposite side and shut and close it to make your triangle. And then you have your top. And like I said, it's already sealed. But you want to then fold this, right? So that it's super sealed. And then you want to put it so that it's facing like that, right? And so you want them so that they all fit on the tray. Let's get the other ones out of the oven this very moment. I'm going to take those out. They're just going to sit there, and we're going to put this up to 425. Okay, start. Okay, so the oven's going from 375, and let's just make a few more of these. Now, look at the disaster that just happened. I put the circle in, and I left it. Well, this is no good. This is just going to go by the wayside because it's not malleable. It's so malleable that it's disintegrated on us. Okay, so the key to learn, just like with the dough when you're doing flour, is the rice paper. When is it so stiff and when is it not? So I've just folded it in half, put this on the back, and then we're going to give it a full stuffing, right? And the peas like to go on their own journey. They like to just walk away and leave. And this one I super filled. And let's just move this along, seal, seal, seal into the thing. I like really trying to make them as full as possible. And then pushing and then closing. Okay, we'll make one or two more and then we'll get these in the oven, right? Now I could make a lot of these. And you can make these, a bunch of them ahead and then cook them when the guests come or you want to have them. But you can make them ahead. Again, I have this soaked. I'm folding it in half. I'm putting the edge towards my stomach. I'm taking a big heaping full of filling and getting it so that it's not all over the place. right? You're keeping a little bit of the round edge away. No filling can be where you're going to close it. Okay, we're taking this and we're folding it carefully so that, and I like flattening it a little bit so that everything goes into the proper triangles, into the corners. And then I'm folding this again, and that's that. We'll make one more, and that's it. Okay, but because we have to make our chutney, and these are also going to go into the oven. We'll make one more. Oops, and sometimes you have a broken one. And when you have a broken one, you can actually make that work. But we're going to not do that. We're going to just take our one. Sometimes there's a couple broken ones in the bag, and then you just make them so that they're halved and everything works out. Don't worry if it breaks. That's the good thing about this particular doubling up the sides. And I really recommend doing the double fold, right? Because it's just, the filling is heavy, and I think on the single layer, yes, you can do single layer, but I just think it's better to do the double. It's just you're just sturdier. And I think that is actually good. Now, this original recipe, normally you would put oil on the outside of these to give them a good shine. And we're going to use the aquafaba that I have, the juice from the chickpeas. And we're just going to give those a little topping. And let's just get this. Oops, I see this corner. I don't like when the corner is missing. And of course, while these are cooking, we're going to make our chutney, our filling for. So that's what these look like. You can see that you would make a whole tray full, right? And I just wanted you to get the idea. We can't keep continuing to use the filling. We can't keep going because we have things to do. We have to make the mint chutney. So what I'm going to do is find somewhere, wherever I put it, close by. Somewhere is the chickpeas. I'm not sure, in a red bowl. It's probably so close that I don't know where it is. Right here. And I'm just going to give it a little, just like we did with the, just going to give it a little bit of glazing, just to keep it so that it doesn't dry out. It will get a little brown. It maybe won't be as brown as the oil, but it will be nice. And then what I like to do is take a little bit of the coconut and just put a little bit of just on the top. And some of that will fall off, but some of it will stick to the liquid. And that coconut will kind of brown as well. Okay, so those are our samosas in rice paper. Those are going into the oven. They don't have to cook long. And how long do they cook? I don't know. They cook until they're brown. And I'm just looking at the recipe here. And coat the spices, and I'm reading, and yeah, I don't see on my piece of paper here where I finished, but they just need to cook for like 10 minutes, 10 or 15 minutes in a 425 degree oven. So we're going to do our very last thing now, and I always like just checking in with you, Wendy. Do we have anything that is questions from this filling, both fillings, both wrappings, before we make our sauce?
Couple of questions, Carol. Thanks. Can you use brown rice paper?
Yes, you can. And believe it or not, I have those. I actually have those here. They usually come in a pink bag, brown rice paper spring rolls. And you can definitely do that. But I will tell you, and I've done it, they're not as pretty. Why? Because it's brown and you can't see through as well. So it's up to you. You can make brown and white ones maybe.
Cool. The recipe says to cook for 5 minutes. Do you cook them a little longer, or does it just?
I probably cook them till I think they look done. Do you know? Till they're going to be hard to the touch. You know, like they're not going to be soft. They're going to be hard.
One of the participants was saying to give a good shine, he uses soy milk with sugar. I know we do not cook with prepare things with sugar. Do you think the browning would occur if one used date paste or date sugar?
You know what I do for my baked sweet things, Wendy, is I use soy milk, and I put either a little tiny bit of maple syrup or a little dot of date paste into that soy. Then I mix it all around, and then it gives it a nice glaze. But I don't want to put sugar or anything on anything sweet, and I don't want to put milk necessarily. Somehow in my mind, I just don't. It is a baked good what we're doing, but it's something I just don't feel good about putting on these particular things.
Right. Also, I was just reading the chat, but it does look like there's a correction and that the recipe, in fact, does say 10 minutes. So well done. I'm going to answer this. Sergio, we're actually not talking about doing an air fryer today, but there's a ton of recipes you can find on, the whole food, vegan whole food, plant-based sites that rave about the air fryer, but we probably won't answer that today.
Yeah, and you know what? When I lived in Manhattan, I couldn't have dehydrators and air fryers, and I mean, like, those things I just learned how to not have because there was no space for those kind of things. I have a proper kitchen now, which you can see, but the fact is, I don't own those things like an air fryer or even an Instapot because I've just learned how to cook around it. But I think the air fryer has magical things that occur when it can toast, make fries into fries. But I guess I just do it in the oven. But it does have a purpose, and if you have one, use it.
Awesome. Couple of very quick ones. Jumping back to the cashew butter, I think you showed that you're using the Artisana brand.
Yes.
Okay, great. And Carole, your ceramic pan, is that a scan pan?
It is not. I don't own a scan pan because I never could afford a scan pan. So my pan, I have a couple pans that are ceramic. My very favorite is this Ozeri. Which is this one, which I didn't use. I used to toast my nuts. I'm looking at the spelling, Ozeri, Ozeri. I bought this at Bed Bath & Beyond online, and it is out of all the 2 ceramic pans that I own, I love this one, but it's only small. I got a small one. So if you had a big one, I would use this one all the time. It wins all of them. I have a friend that has a green pan, which is on the lower end of the ceramic pans, and he says he loves it. He says it works all the time.
Beautiful. And a little bit indirect, do you ever sprout your chickpeas?
Wait, say that about my chickpeas again, Wendy?
Do you ever sprout chickpeas?
Oh, you know what? I sprout a lot of things, but never the chickpeas. I guess I don't know why. But I do like sprouting. I guess what comes to my mind when I sprout is mung beans. Yeah. That's kind of what I do. But you could.
Okay, good.
So we are in the finishing lines here, and I must move on if that's every question. And this is my own little recipe here. I used to make a wonderful red lentil patty, which I haven't. It was from an English cookbook, and it came with a mint sauce. And so this is kind of an ad lib. The recipe for this for these samosas came with a mint sauce, but I kind of just used a recipe that I know and have and combined it. So this is the recipe. It's going to be a half a cup of chopped mint. Okay, so this is a half a cup of washed chopped mint. Then it's going to be 2 cloves of garlic, okay? It's going to be 3 to 4 medjool dates. My dates were very hard. In fact, I'm going to put some of this water back here. They've been soaking. I'm going to get a little cutting board very fast. My little dates were hard as a rock. They were not soft and malleable, so I got them soaking. And you never want to get rid of that water. Speaking of sugar water and soy milk and making things shiny, right? If you're soaking dates, don't get rid of the water. Sometimes I don't have any place for that water, and I end up just putting it into ice cube trays and then using it later on. If somebody wants their iced tea sweetened, I use that sweet ice cube. So anyway, I just put the water that the dates were soaking in, and I'm boiling some water because this recipe actually calls for a half a cup of boiling water. So I thought I might as well boil date water, and that way I get to use the date water. I'm just going to, you know what, I'm going to use all 4 dates that I had because I made this recipe the other day, and I served it for a guest. He said, this is really delicious. And the next thing I knew it, I too was eating this mint sauce with the filling from the samosas and cooking potatoes. And I was enjoying myself at dinner as well as breakfast. And I went through all of this mint sauce in 2 days' time. So you know something is good when it disappears from your refrigerator, right? So while I'm talking to you, this is a Serrano chili, and we need to get some kind of spice, hot heat into this. Serrano is perfect for this. If you only have a jalapeno, go for it. It says that we need 2 teaspoons, and I see right now that I don't have quite 2 teaspoons. If you're someone that's really shy about hotness, then use less. It's always best to use less and put more in than to try to pull it back, right? Once you've added those chilies and you've gotten rid of their, you get rid of their seeds. I got rid of most of their seeds already. And then we need a half a cup of lime juice. And remember, I told you I'm boiling water in the back. So I'm gonna go get it, and we're gonna get this. And we only need a half a cup. Look, I have a tiny little, and we're just gonna measure a half a cup into here. And I'm not sure we need all that water. And it looks cloudy because it has date water in it. So it's fine. And before I go adding this water, because we already have the lime juice, I'm not sure if we need all the water. Sometimes I have to add a little more water to the sauce just to make it the right consistency. Because when you pack that mint, sometimes I pack a lot of mint, sometimes I don't pack enough mint. So, and we're going to bring this over to the Cuisinart. We're just going to give it a good, you could do this in a blender if you want. I just like the Cuisinart because you could open the top and look at what's going on. I'm letting this go. I actually realized that I made it in the blender the other day, and I think it's actually easier in the blender, but I like my Cuisinart so much. Okay, so let's just check it out. We're gonna get a spatula. I always take the lid and make sure that everything's kind of not going to waste. Okay, and let's look at what's happening inside here. It's liquidy enough. I don't need to add the extra little bit of water. In fact, I'm just going to get rid of that water because if I added more mint, but it's perfect consistency. And it's sweet. Ooh, and it's hot. Ooh, it's spicy and sweet at the same time. And oh my gosh. This sauce is good on everything, on just rice, and I'm just going to blend it for another 1 minute. I just want it to all come together. Again, you're going to have to adjust for yourself the consistency, because when you peel your mint from the stem and how much you're packing it into the half a cup, one person's going to pack more leaves than the other person. So the consistency is, you have to just check it. Okay, so I think we're there. We're just going to quickly take the lid off, and as I was showing you from a distance, when you take that lid off, you really want to get all that liquid out. And I have just a little bowl. When I made it the other day, I put it in a nice little fancy jar. And as I said, you know you have a good sauce when you eat it in 2 days, right? When something just sits in your refrigerator and that you've made it and you ignore it, then you know, well, that wasn't so good. I will make that again. But this time, I knew, I was like, I'm looking forward to having that sauce again. So I'm just putting this nice green sauce in this bowl. You can see I have too much sauce for this little bowl, so I'll put that away for now. We have to look at our little empanadas. Let's get some plates out. Let's get some serving. I don't know if we need both of these. I had a friend give me this when I moved. I have a platter, a wooden platter that has the state of New York and all the great cities, and then a platter of New Mexico. So I have these amazing 2 platters, and we're going to just put our sauce there. We're going to go and get our empanadas. Oops, I almost went and it was still hot. We're going to lay out our beautiful Indian pies here on our New York plate here, right? And we can open up one. We'll cut one open. We could just bite one open, but I thought maybe it's nicer to cut it open, right? So we have the filling, as you can see, right? So that's just going to go right there, like it's as if we opened it on purpose. And let's just see what's going on in here. Oh yeah, these are puffing up, and they're looking brown, and they're looking really quite beautiful. Can everyone see? I'm going to just touch them to see. Oh yeah, they're perfect. So that's just, you have to be careful here. Oh, and I just realized that I don't think I put any cilantro.
Oh, it looks like we may have cut out. Carole is in the middle of a windstorm out in Taos, New Mexico, so we knew that was a possibility. However, if she's noticing, oh, she's back. Okay, the winds may have subsided. Carole, we missed you for a short time. I don't think she can hear us. All right, we will text her. Carole, you're on mute for some reason. All right, well, she's having a windstorm out there, and so I'm just gonna pinch hit. I'm glad this happened towards the end, but you can see that she's presenting the samosas, which again, I can tell you have been absolutely delicious. I know that we're trying to reach her. I'm not sure why. All right, we need her to unmute her mic. I am going to wave to her and see if she can see us. Usually she can't see what's going on here. All right, I'm going to jump in. We're close to time anyway. I'm sorry that happened. Hopefully we can catch something. Oh, here she comes. Maybe.
Wendy, I couldn't hear you for a minute.
Yes, Carole, we lost you.
I still can't hear you.
Oh dear.
Very strange.
Okay. Let's see what happens. We have about 10 more minutes to go.
Strange.
Can you get up? Can you? Oh, we can hear you. Carole, can you hear me? All right. Doesn't look like she can. She's probably trying to adjust the mic. Yep, we can hear you. We can hear you.
I guess I'm good here. I can't hear you for some reason. I've lost you.
Okay. Looks like you're done. Are you done? I think she's done. Okay. I'm really sorry, guys, for that last bit. I'm not sure if we can catch anything as we were. Oh, I hear the echo.
Oh, that's me now. I guess I'm back. Just a second. Yes, I can back.
Great. So we caught you just at the last minute. You were pulling out the samosas.
Yes, and I pulled out the samosas. Here they are. Beautiful.
Absolutely beautiful, Carole. So colorful.
And we have our sauce. So we have our two, like I said, we have everything here. We have fillings, we have things filled already, and we have our mint sauce. I think we're done.
It looks phenomenal. I think all of us actually want to come to dinner, and I probably say that at the end of each show. What a lovely presentation. You're getting comments in the chat similarly. Thank you for an amazing inspiration. Can't wait to try. Some people are saying beautifully presented as always. And oh my God, the colors, as always, absolutely phenomenal. Really, really great.
And
so
it's so delicious, Wendy. The sauce, it's just like, it's just transports you,
I'm
and
salivating.
Suddenly you're in India.
Yes, I can imagine. Awesome presentation. Lots of flavors to try for our audience. Super cool. All right. Well, I'm going to jump back into announcements just to invite you all to please keep joining us. Please keep joining the events of Plant Powered Metro New York. Just to repeat what we said at the beginning, we have truly a wonderful farm tour coming up on May 14th to Dr. Ron Weiss's Ethos Farm. He has his practice on the farm. He may be one of the only or few doctors who actually has his medical practice on a farm. But please join us, particularly if you're in the New York area, New Jersey, New York, Connecticut. May 14th, it's all on the Plant Powered Metro New York website. You can register. We have a bus coming from the city. We also have a 21-day jumpstart coming up on May 8th. Register by May 8th, and that you can find the link in the chat. And then we have a women's health events with Powering Women's Health with Plants. That's the name of it. Powering Women's Health with Plants on May 25th, which is going to be a live stream presentation. A couple things that Carole's fans may want to know is that Carole is actually going to be on Chef AJ's YouTube channel on Mother's Day. So May 8th at 11 a.m. Pacific and 2 o'clock Eastern, she will be cooking for Chef AJ. And then next month, Carole's recipes are going to be appearing in the June issue of the Health Science magazine, which, for those who know, is published by the National Health Association. And I think those links we're putting in the chat. So a big thank you to my co-host and co-producer, Jim Spellos, who's managing the tech behind the scenes, also to Alan Smithy for his contributions. Our next demo with Chef Carole will be Sunday, June 5th. Same time, same channel, 5 o'clock. And then Carole can be reached at Carole, her name, at her company, which is carole@theveggievanguard.com, or on Instagram @theveggievanguard. And she often posts really stunning pictures. So please follow her on Instagram as well. And then finally, please consider a donation to Plant Powered Metro New York so we can continue doing our best work in communities. We go all over New York City in numerous institutions and communities throughout the metropolitan area. And Carole's doggy. Anyway, and that's it. Thank you so much for joining us.
Carole, my little puppy, she just woke up. She knows it's lunchtime, dinner time. I don't know.
How wonderful. Any last words?
No, I just see that someone's wondering what channel Chef AJ is on, and just go to YouTube and just look up Chef AJ, and she has hundreds and hundreds of shows that are past, that are there for you to watch, and you just go at 11 o'clock Pacific time and you just log on, and the show is live, and we're making brunch. We're making waffles and cherry sauce, and we're making a cocktail and some asparagus and potatoes. So I hope everyone comes, and Wendy, and I thank everyone that helps produce the show, and see you next time.
We will see you all next time. Thank you, everybody. It's really wonderful having you here.
All right. Bye-bye.